Hi, are you someone who thinks that posture is really boring or that there are too many exercises and it's really complicated to strengthen your muscles? In that case, keep watching because I'm going to show you that posture is really much easier than you think. You don't have to build up your muscles. In fact, you have to let go of tension because the body is designed to balance in space. And so you really don't need to do anything at all except allow the body to do its job. We look at small children and think about how well they're using the body. They're great body users. So we want to get back to why have we lost this ability to have good posture. And it's mostly because children don't interfere with their bodies and they just allow themselves to be free in space and move around well. Whereas as we get a little bit older, we tend to try and control the body a little bit more. How many of you have had the experience where your posture's kind of bad or your neck hurts, so you think, right, today I'm really going to have better posture, and you make an enormous effort to sort of sit up straight. After a few minutes, you just have to collapse because it's way too much like hard work. Well, that's because you're trying to do things to the body and you're much better off undoing things. So today I'm going to show you 3 simple body facts that will help you to improve the way you move around the planet and the way you use your body. There are 3 sessions in total. In the second session, we are going to take that information that we've learned and apply it to using laptops, smartphones, all the kind of stuff we've been doing quite a lot of in these past weeks when we've been working at home or staying at home. Then in the third section, we are going to look at all the information we've built up and apply it to being a musician. So if you're a budding musician, or even if you're quite a long-time musician, you will find that the third session will give you lots of good information. But don't skip straight to the third session. You need to have a balance of information about how the body works, and it's so much easier to apply it to everyday activities than going straight into being a musician. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce my sidekick, Bob, and he is my trusty skeleton who's been with me for some time, and the two of us help musicians at ICMP to improve their posture. So what I want to show you is how the joints of the body are designed to balance in space. So when we look at a side view of a human, we can see that that joint is lining up with the hip joint, which is lining up with the knee joint, which is lining up with the ankle joint. So all the joints of the body, if you were just floating in space or if you were just standing without tension, you would see lining up here, 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 and here. So we're going to learn a few body facts that will help you to stop interfering with this natural process of being upright. So let's start with some questions. I'm going to ask you 3 questions and you can point on yourself to where you think these things are. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, if I asked where you thought the top of your spine was, where would you point to? Now, some of you are going to point low down, here, when actually the spine is quite high up. If you feel for the little bump on the back of your head, that is the edge of your skull, and therefore your spine has to be going that high. A lot of people get that wrong, and I understand why. It's because people think that their shoulders are here, and therefore that must be where their neck ends. Of course, your spine goes right up into your neck as far as here. So those of you, most of you, I would have thought, would have pointed at the back of the neck. And actually, that's also not very helpful because your spine is in the middle of you. So think about that for a minute. Your spinal column, which is all the bones that are stacked on top of one another, they go up the middle of your torso and they come into the middle of your neck and they end there. So if you take your fingers, put them just under your earlobes, and move your head gently side to side, up and down, and you'll become more aware of this new joint that you probably didn't even know you had. It's not wrong to point at the back, but you could point here, here at the back, or here, and you would come to the same place, but it's just more useful to think of the head balancing on the top of the spine and on the top of the spinal bones that are in the neck. So your head weighs 11 pounds or 5 kilos, and that is this weight here. Now, I know you can't feel this weight, but it is heavy. You can kind of imagine that. And if you went into the supermarket and felt anything which weighed 5 kilos, that would give you a really good idea too. So that's why it's really nice to think about the head balancing on the top of the spine and that the head is centrally placed, because that way this great big weight can balance on the top. Okay, so here's body fact number 2. And again, I'm going to ask it as a question. If I were to ask you where you thought your middle was, where would you point to? Most people point here. They think their middle is somewhere around here. In fact, your true middle is your hip sockets, which are here. And why is that important? Well, because your hip sockets are at the bottom of the torso, and it means that you'll keep all of your spine aligned. And remember that the fact that the head is balanced centrally and that it weighs so much means that it's really important to keep these joints aligned where you can. Otherwise, the head starts to create a weight that has to be borne somewhere in the spine. So it's much better if they can align naturally. So this is the second fact we've learned, that your hip socket is your true middle. And I'll just show you a couple of things that can make it even more obvious why it's good to move from that point. So rather than moving from somewhere like your waist area or your whole body like this, you can see as I move, my joints are no longer aligning. So instead, if I now move at the hips to reach for something, not only do I have more range, I'm also keeping my joints lined up. Now I want to come back to the fact that your body is in 2 parts, and Bob demonstrates this beautifully, because when I tilt the skeleton, you can see that part 1 very clearly is the spine from the head down to the pelvis, and that part 2 really is quite different. So think of part 1 as your engine room, and part 2 as the stuff that moves you around the planet, the things that make you walk, go forwards, backwards, and up and down. So that's your middle. Okay, stay with me. Here's our third body fact. And I never ask this as a question because most people are really unaware of a very important part of our anatomy called the sitting bones. Now, the sitting bones are the 2 bony outcrops that come out of the bottom of your pelvis when you go to sit. And I want you to find your own sitting bones by putting your hands palm up very gently under your backside. Now, hopefully you're sitting on a chair that is cushioned. If you're not, then it's better to do this from a cushioned chair. So hands under your backside until you feel those 2 really hard bones. You'll know when you found them. And if you rock around on those a little bit, you'll see that they are really the lowest thing and that they have the ability to help you move. So take your hands away and ask yourself a question. Do you think you're on those bones most of the time? I'm pretty sure the answer will be no, because most people slouch backwards like this onto the backs of their sitting bones. Now you can see right away this is not very good posture. It's actually really uncomfortable. So this fact number 3 about the sitting bones will help you to remain upright naturally by staying at the tops of those sitting bones, the highest point. You will automatically align your joints. Once again, I'm going to use Bob to demonstrate. We've seen that part 1 and part 2 of the body are like this, but notice now these 2 bony things at the bottom, which are the sit bones. That's a back view. They look pretty similar from the front and the back. That's a front view. So those 2 things are the lowest things in the structure that you sit on. So we've got 3 body facts, and what you can do until our next session is just keep in mind these 3 different ideas that you've learned today about the body. Let's recap now. Number one, your spine goes higher than you think, up to here. And your head is fairly centrally balanced on the top of that. And your head weighs 5 kilos or 11 pounds, which is quite substantial, so you want it to stay balanced. Fact number two, your middle, your true middle, is actually your hip sockets. And moving at the hips means that the body can stay more aligned. And it's a neat distinction between the torso, which is the engine room of the body, and the legs, which are separate and the moving sort of part of the body. Third fact that we've learned is that the sitting bones, which are found at the very, very bottom of part one, and we put our hands under the backside to find them, they are rounded and they allow us to stay upright and balanced when we sit right at the very, very tops of them. So take those facts away today, but I want to finish by telling you a little bit about the one and only exercise, if you like, in the Alexander Technique, and that is to lie down in what we call the semi-supine position. And if you do this regularly, it will really help you to unravel and uncoil all the tension in your muscles and allow you to move around more freely. So I'm going to show you the basics of how to do semi-supine. I'm going to be using my table because this is the table that I use for teaching and it's easier for you to see. But you will be doing this on a carpeted floor or a yoga mat, and you'll need some books under your head. I'm going to show you in a minute how to decide how many books you need, but for now I just want to show you the semi-supine position and then we'll look at the books. Now books can be really hard on your head, so if it hurts the back of your head, by all means use something woolly to put on top so that it's not quite so hard. So here I am in the semi-supine position. I've got the books under my head, I've got my hands resting on my abdomen, and I've got my knees bent with my feet flat on the floor. If this feels uncomfortable to you, you can very gently hug your knees, just a little bit side to side. Be very, very gentle if you're a back sufferer. And then one at a time, let the legs back down. And that will help to make sure that your back is fully extended. So this is the position that you're going to be in to do this semi-supine. Now let's talk about the number of books you need. If I had too few books under my head, I would feel as if my head was falling backwards, and that's not comfortable. If I had way too many books under my head, then I would feel like my chin was pushing down to my neck. So choose the number of books which are right for you. I suggest you have a range of books so that you can adjust taking one away or adding one in case you are not sure. So it's good to have those books at the side of you while you're lying down. So check out this link on the screen now. That will take you through to an ICMP Alexander Technique playlist. And on that playlist, you will find 6 guided semi-supine audio sessions. And I really hope you'll try one of these sessions before our next installment. It'll really help you to release muscle tension and become more aware what you're doing to your body when you're moving around during your day. So I've really enjoyed today. I hope you have too, and thanks for watching. Please leave your comments, and if you have any questions, we'll be very happy to answer those too. See you next time. Bye.